also from Falmouth. So we were heading now. I hope I get a chance to get to some of the places like where they do the rafting.
Oh yeah.
But in Falmouth now you have somebody, the buses are coming from Falmouth because there's a ship up there and vice versa. And some people will.
Hello everyone. I'm here in Jamaica at the home of Horace Dyer. And he's got quite a story to tell. He's one of those who've been with us in the Zoom meeting for quite some time.
Yes.
So
Over 1 year.
Over 1 year, yes.
Yes.
And so we're going to ask Horace to just tell us his story as a Jehovah's Witness, how you found the truth, and then how you really found the truth.
Okay. Well, I got baptized in 1980 on the 30th of May. But I was affiliated with the organization before that. As a matter of fact, my first contact with them in terms of going to the meeting was on New Year's Day 1975. And as you might recall, in the 70s, particularly years or months leading up to 1975,
right,
the witnesses were putting their best foot forward because they expected that Christ would have returned.
Yes.
That is how I got affiliated with the organization. Eventually, in my teenage years, in my late teens, I got baptized, as I mentioned, the 30th of May, 1980. And just to mention that growing up, my memory of the organization as a youngster, as a child, as a teenager, there were some enjoyments. I remember having fun times and so on. Especially during that time, I didn't have responsibility in the congregation, so to speak.
Right.
So I enjoyed the pre-convention work, assembly work, and so on. So I had some fun times. It is when after I got baptized, and I was about 19, 20.
Right.
I recall there was a circuit overseer who came by. He's well respected, well loved by youngsters. And he saw me working at one assembly. It was a final day. I think we were cleaning up. And he's now dead. And he said, Dale, so he called me Dale.
Yeah.
And he said, what would prevent you from being a full-time servant? Can you honestly say if there's anything that's holding you back?
Right.
And I thought about it, was about to give an answer. And he said, don't say anything now. Just pray about it to Jehovah.
Right.
In a couple of weeks, I could be coming to your congregation. You'll tell me your answer. But now that I'm an ex-witness, I realize it's a very powerful psychological position to put me into.
Sure.
Because when you're in, everything you do is linked with Jehovah. As if you have no choice. And if you showed, in my case, I was single, free and disengaged, so I couldn't think of anything else.
Right.
I had my personal goals, but to pit that against Jehovah. And so I decided that when he came, I told him, yes, I'm going. Nothing holds me back.
Right. If you're not doing every possible thing you can, then you're probably not going to be saved.
That's the whole idea. And I mean, that's a way to put it across. And the truth is, he did it he asked the same question to at least 4 other young men, my friends in the same congregation I was in. And we were all in the same position, so we gave him a yes. And so for 5 years, I was a special pioneer. And that
went right from nothing, from a publisher to a special pioneer.
Right, because
which is an arrangement they had here in Jamaica, you were telling me.
Yes, because at that time, his exact words were that they have a quota of special pioneers. And if it's not filled, sometimes they will pull persons who are willing from a secular job straight into. So that is what happened. Anyway, at the end of his visit, he pulled at least 5 of us, myself included, and I was a special pioneer for 5 years, and with 5 different congregations. There are perks that one receives being a witness.
Yeah.
So I would have started out at that time as a ministerial servant, and I was thrust into a role where you have to be acting as elders in some of the congregation.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of pressure, a lot of stress, but at the same time, at the end of the day, there were some benefits which have helped me, and I'm grateful for that. I'll take that with me. But it's during those times you slowly realize that you really lost your life, really. They're in total control.
Right.
And eventually I fell ill. And it was a Friday, I got sick, started with like a fever. And I had an assignment at the assembly, 2-day assembly.
Uh-huh.
And I ended up going despite what I felt. Because if you really don't meet your quota and so on,
Right.
140 hours you have to write letters and explanation.
Oh, yes. Right. I remember
And
that. Yeah.
I was young at the time. I thought that a little pill here and there might straighten me out.
Sure.
And I went to the assembly the first day and the second day, but things got worse. And I keep taking medication over the counter. And I felt worse. And I got sick. Well, the doctors mentioned that maybe I over-medicate myself.
Ah.
So I ended up in the public hospital.
Oh, dear.
And because whatever had happened affected my regular bodily function.
Right.
So I couldn't urinate properly and that sort of thing. It was horrible. Terrible experience to have had then. Anyway, I was alone for a while as I started to get better to do as much as I can in terms of as a special pioneer.
Yeah.
So don't worry about the hours and so on.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt good about that. But the next circuit overseer visit, I was told by, and incidentally, the circuit overseer was from my own congregation where
Right.
we all left together as special pioneers. And he came up to me and said, pat me on the shoulder and said, Dale, you're too young to go on the injured list.
Mm-hmm. Go ahead. You were. What did the circuit overseer tell you at that point?
Yes, he put his hand on my shoulder because we're about the same age, we're friends from the same congregation. He said, Dale, you're too young to go on the injured list.
Huh?
And
Really?
you
Oh,
should,
of course, they had a...
Yeah, you should step back.
Forgot about that.
Yes, and I felt bad about it because...
they didn't want to give you money
yes,
to keep you going because you were too young,
yes,
even though you were injured.
right.
Yeah.
And
okay.
that's how I got out. A lot of person don't know that. As a matter of fact, I remember...
So you're on your own, baby. You're sick.
I was on
Thanks
my
for the
own.
work, and
Yes,
be well.
yes. And that is when I started to see a different side because I had to start all over. My father at the time wasn't a witness. He was the
That was 5 years you were...
after 5 years in the full-time service. And as I said, I had to start all over. There were some brothers who came to my rescue and knew of my circumstance and assisted me. But just to mention about full-time service, when you're a special pioneer or a missionary, at the time, I don't know if they still do, they have what is called PEA. That's a personal account. That so the society will remit monies into it periodically. That's just enough to assist you in times of emergency.
Right.
I didn't use it much because I was relatively healthy.
Yeah.
When so when I was told to leave, I said, well, I'll to step back. I did so, and thinking I would have gotten maybe a little something from the PEA
Sure.
to give me a start, but
Yeah.
so they start afresh. And
Really?
as I
They
said,
gave you nothing out of the PEA, even though you've been donating money to that? Is that how it worked? Or
no, you didn't donate money. Basically,
they would set aside money?
you get a small stipend per month. And when you when you combine both stipend with yourself and your co-worker, it's just enough to get along. I have no complaint about that because the brothers basically, and they were told that you sign your document indicating that you're not really being paid.
Yeah.
And I don't have a problem with that. But that personal expense account was separate from what you would get per month.
Sure.
So that was for emergency like illness and so on.
Yeah.
So I was thinking that was forthcoming. Nothing happened. I didn't ask about it. I didn't even get a letter saying thank you very much for your 5 years of service. We hope you get well. Nobody spoke to me about nothing in writing. I was just only told that. So I carry that with me in my heart. So it's the first I'm expressing that publicly.
Sure.
And what would have surprised me or hurt me is when individuals might thought that I left because maybe I want to go back into a secular life.
All right. Yeah.
And that pretty hurt
That adds to the hurt.
Yes. And, they later on, when they see me go back into a secular life, start working again, and the same brothers would come back and say, when are you coming back into full-time service? In my heart.
We can slap you on the other cheek.
In my heart, I say, hell no. In my heart. And they keep at me even when I got married. I remember they approached myself and my wife that, they're looking for a single couple and so on. So that was my experience. I had that in my heart, but as I told you in our discussion before, they have a way of figuring out how to deal with questions that come into your mind by, well, use the term preemptive disinformation.
Right.
So you'll always hear about imperfection and many other stuff. So I put it down to imperfections and so on, and I live with it, and this was still the truth in my mind. But that really, made me realize that what they say in print is sometimes the things they do in actual practice.
Yes.
So I eventually became an elder after settling down. I had a family. Well, I got married to a beautiful lady, very nice person, and we were married for 26 years. And but sadly, to my surprise, the marriage came apart. I won't say much out of respect for her and my daughter, but it was a big surprise to me. It really hit me hard, and it's my eyes would have started opening the widest during that time period. But I must also quickly mention I did get a chance to see the Australian Royal Commission case.
Right.
And when I saw it, well, a witness from the other end of the island told me about it. And I went online, YouTube, and saw it.
But the truth was, yes.
And I
We're
was so
talking about Jeffrey Jackson.
Yes. Yeah. And the lawyers were all over him. And he was dodging and denying. So I was floored by that.
Denying things that he had openly spoken about to witnesses.
And that they were in charge.
Right. They were God's channel.
Yes.
But before the commission, suddenly it would be presumptuous to say such a thing.
That's it. So that sort of get me opened up a bit.
Yeah.
But this, but again, you still think, well, this is the truth and nothing else out there.
That's right. You can dismiss the men. You think at least the doctrines are correct.
That's it.
Yeah.
So after that, my personal problems I mentioned, eventually I had to step down. They allowed me to stay for a while. I stepped down. So I had more time. So I was at my low. And you seek solace in God's word, and you start to think.
Right.
And then I started to do personal Bible reading, make notes, and things started to pop up in my head.
It's the best thing.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I started seeing where there were issues with a couple of doctrines, some of which you mentioned online, which which I agree with some of the things I've been researching, such as their view on the resurrection is wrong. And you said something in one of your recent video about if Christ really came in 1914, the governing body should not be here. And I hope people didn't miss that. Because if Christ did return in 1914,
right,
then the resurrection should have happened.
Yeah.
And according to the scripture, the resurrection would involve those who have died sleeping in the grave.
Yeah.
When Christ come, Christians who are alive, according to Jehovah's Witness doctrine, who are part of the 144,000,
sure,
would change, and together
right,
they go up to meet Christ.
There should have been a mass disappearance.
Mass disappearance.
Yeah.
That didn't happen. But what we have Christ doing is making several trips. So Christ is disorganized.
Right.
Which is very funny, because witnesses talk about Jehovah God being an organized God.
Exactly.
But they have Christ coming every time an anointed dies. It's either he's coming or he's not coming.
Yeah.
But if that took place, if the resurrection started in 1914, then all the anointed, including the governing bodies now, should not be here.
No.
So that is one thing I noticed. And a couple other stuff. And the whole matter of Romans chapter 6, verse 7, the one about he that has died is
acquitted of his sin. Right.
I went into that because I started seeing scriptures connecting. I said, no, the Bible doesn't teach that.
Yeah. And
then I realized that how our Bible translates Romans is basically it's inaccurate in giving that idea.
Right.
And I started to have discussion with my former fellow elders. And I remember at the gate, two of them, we had good chaps, some long discussions. And these were guys who, one of them was a full-time servant. And they knew the scriptures, and I realized they couldn't give answers. And it even convinced me that this is an error.
Right.
And I started to share it with others, I think not many people. And eventually, keep the door closed. Sorry.
I think it's almost time to go.
Yes.
Okay.
We should wrap it up.
Okay. Yes. And eventually, called me for a meeting, and because I was an elder, because I should have mentioned I've been a witness for 40 years.
Yeah.
I've been an elder for almost 30 years. So I knew the lingo and
Right.
the movements. And these brothers used to work together for many years. So I realized they were probing around, and they mentioned straight up that they have a judicial meeting lined up. And I said, for
Sure.
what?
Yeah.
And they said, for apostasy.
Mm.
And I said, well, I won't be coming to any meeting. Everything that I believe and say is basically in writing. I sent to the text.
Yeah.
And they asked me if I still believe that the governing body is God's channel. And if I was a Jehovah's Witness, I told him I'm a Christian.
Yeah.
Because the term Jehovah's Witness as applied in Jeremiah is for the Jews.
Right.
And because the context starts from chapter 42, which says, these people are blind and deaf.
Yeah.
But I'm a Christian.
Right.
Anyway, I got a call about a week and a half afterwards saying that I was dissolute.
Mm-hmm.
And so I exited the organization. It was pretty tough.
Yeah.
And like everybody else, you dig around as you look into the scriptures.
Right.
And I came across your channel.
Mm.
And other people who have similar beliefs.
Right.
And I've been stuck with you guys ever since. And I'm happy to see that many people's eyes are opening.
Yes. It's very
It's
encouraging.
a wonderful journey, especially the latter part of it.
And you're to be commended because you didn't leave God nor Christ. You left the organization.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
But you found the freedom of the Christ.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And
We're
I did
happy
read.
to have you with us.
Thank you very much. And I did read Crisis of Conscience.
Mm-hmm.
That was the icing on the cake.
Yeah, that does put the icing on the cake. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't like that book.
An inside look.
Yes.
I often tell people that when the organization says don't read apostate literature, they shouldn't read the Bible,
Yeah.
because that's the greatest book
Yes.
to expose them,
Yes,
right?
yes.
And they would consider anything that
Yeah,
exposes
yeah,
them
yeah.
apostate, so
Yeah,
they must
yeah.
consider the Bible apostate.
Yes.
Because all you have to do is read scripture with an unbiased and a critical mind,
Yes.
and you'll see the falsehood
Okay. That's
teach.
true.
Yeah. Thank you, and we'll say goodbye for now, and we'll keep in touch.
Yes, certainly.
And thank
I'm
you for
happy to
hosting
have
us
had
in
you
your
guys. Yes.
lovely house.
Yes.
Here in Jamaica.
Welcome to my second home.
Yes.
Yes. Thank you very much.